Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we are going entirely beyond the clock. We've got our sleek dark mode set up all ready to go because we're about to completely deconstruct something you probably never, ever think twice about: how we actually measured time. We're going to dive deep into the Z-axis protocol. It's this incredibly radical new framework designed to help us hack the grid and honestly fundamentally change how we schedule our everyday lives.
Okay, just think about this for a second. What if 3 p.m. doesn't actually exist? I know, it sounds a little crazy, right? But seriously, why do we treat this 24-hour grid of time zones like it's some immutable law of physics? That grid was literally standardized back during the Industrial Revolution just to make train schedules work. It wasn't handed down from the cosmos, it's a mechanical invention. We have basically bound ourselves to a system created for 19th century steam engines. So today, we're going to look at how we can finally break free and hack that very grid.
To really wrap our heads around this, we have to look at a stark contrast: machine time versus human time. So machine time is that rigid, industrial grid we're all used to. It's built purely for mechanical efficiency, and it is brutally binary. You know the exact feeling. You look at a traditional calendar, and you're either 100% free or 100% busy. There's no in-between, no nuance at all. But human time? That's entirely different. It's rooted in our actual biology. It measures our day in fluid blocks of duration. And most importantly, it respects that our availability naturally fluctuates with our personal capacity and energy. It's a living, organic reality completely at odds with that unyielding machine.
So how do we practically start living on human time? Well, we start by replacing clocks with blocks. Instead of pinning an event to a rigid clock coordinate by saying, hey, let's meet at 3 p.m., you just say, let's talk for 3 blocks. Because think about it. Whether you're sitting in a bustling coffee shop in New York or lounging in a living room in Amsterdam, an hour takes the exact same amount of time to actually experience. 3 blocks to you is exactly 3 blocks to me. It's a system that beautifully prioritizes the shared human experience rather than just trying to match up arbitrary schedule coordinates.
Now, wrapping our heads around this requires a massive paradigm shift. You are essentially adding a Z-axis to a concept of time that we have exclusively treated as entirely flat. It's kind of like a Rubik's Cube of time. We're literally peeling our days off of that flat, two-dimensional industrial calendar and pulling them up into a dynamic 3D space. When this paradigm shift gets put into practice, the digital interface itself completely transforms. Notice what's entirely missing from this new kind of calendar. There are no harsh, fixed rectangles anywhere. Instead, you get these gorgeous, glowing probability circles, just sort of floating over a dark, violet-black background. This is a total reimagining of the calendar. It focuses on how we can begin to measure our actual energetic bandwidth, rather than just our mechanical availability.
And reading these probability circles is incredibly intuitive once you get the hang of it. First, the color indicates the likelihood that you're actually available. Then, the size of the circle represents how long you expect that availability to last. By doing it this way, the interface instantly strips away all that anxiety of a strict back-to-back schedule. It functions so much more like a fuel gauge for our human capacity, basically asking us, hey, how much fuel do we actually have left in the tank to connect today?
This personal fuel gauge then feeds right into an even larger system, a dynamic timeline showing the planetary color of now. It's a vibrant neon gradient spanning the timeline, moving from a sunrise red all the way into a deep nighttime purple, complete with interactive availability sliders. It gives us a completely visual, intuitive way to grasp the rhythm of our day without ever having to rely on cold, hard numbers. And as you interact with it, the schedule practically breathes with you in real time. The blocks physically grow and shrink based on your current state. Dim, unscheduled blocks are just tiny slivers. Busy blocks are short and hatched. And swing blocks, which mean you have a bit of flexibility, are medium height with these dashed outlines. It is a far cry from the rigid, blocky Tetris game we play every day in Outlook or Google Calendar.
But the real magic, the absolute emotional payoff of this whole system, happens when you finally have some free time. The interface uses these glowing, full-height solid blocks with drop shadows to denote when you're actually available. The design is just brilliant because you can instantly read your entire availability landscape from the visual silhouette alone. There's no need to decode opacities or do weird mental math. You just get to breathe a huge sigh of relief when you see your free time glowing brightly right in front of you. But all of this wonderful fluidity raises a really critical question. What exactly is the anchor of now? Think about it for a second. If we've completely thrown out the 24-hour clock and we're only measuring blocks of duration, how on earth do we synchronize? How do we actually know when a shared block of time begins between two people who are just trying to connect?
Well, the solution is a fascinating concept called the anchor of now. It basically means that time is measured strictly relative to the exact present moment you engage. So the absolute second you open the app, you establish your own personal zero. And from that deeply personal relative starting point, you just measure your blocks forward into the future. You are always starting from exactly where you are.
But right here is where we hit a massive biological clash. Just think about the sheer pain of trying to schedule a global Zoom call. Our bodies don't care their centralized digital servers. Our circadian rhythms respond to the physical sun outside our own windows. Sharing a digital timestamp in a calendar invite is absolutely not the same as sharing a physical reality. Because if my now is bright morning sunlight while I'm sipping my coffee, and your now halfway across the globe is pitch black REM sleep, we aren't truly sharing an experience, are we? Human biology profoundly struggles to decouple our intuitive sense of time from our immediate local environment.
To solve this incredible friction, the creators of this protocol propose something unbelievably radical. They state, very simply, blue is blue because of the planet. Let the scale of that just sink in for a moment. We're talking about moving away from a localized personal calendar to a planetary-scale evolution of time itself.
They call this concept the universal rainbow. It completely divorces time from numbers and local geography. Instead of looking at a ticking clock on your wall, imagine taking a 24-hour color spectrum and mapping it physically onto the rotating globe itself. We are literally abandoning local time entirely and adopting a God's-eye view of planetary mechanics.
Think of how this spectrum tracks our planet on a grand scale. Sunrise red represents the beginning of the global cycle. High noon yellow is the peak of that cycle, and nighttime purple is the end. A universal color is assigned based strictly on where the sun is highest over the Earth at that exact moment. This means that if we agree to meet at blue, it is the exact same absolute planetary moment for everyone on Earth. For the first time, we're all participating in a shared global reality.
So what is the ultimate goal of all this? It really comes down to unconditional communication. The Z-axis protocol wants to completely strip away the industrialized friction of mechanical time zones. It's a framework designed to help us finally move past rigid mechanization so we can deeply respect our fluctuating human energy. It paves the way for true, organic connection based on actual, lived capacity.
Which leaves us with this final, provocative question. If we actually adopt this 3D Rubik's Cube of time, if we map our days to a universal rainbow, how will it fundamentally change the way you schedule your own life? Are you ready to leave machine time behind and live entirely on human time? Think about that the next time you open up your calendar. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.